January 22, 1943, 9:17 a.m. Through the Lyman Alaskan, he watches a banyan tree, 240 yards away. A toy, his commanding officer called it, a mail order sweetheart. The other platoon leaders sneered. In the past 72 hours, 11 Japanese snipers, operating in these groves, have killed 14 men from the 132nd Infantry Regiment. George's battalion commander gave him until morning to prove his civilian rifle could actually hit anything. This is that morning. George filters the noise, watching the branches through 2.5x magnification. At 9:17, a branch moves. No wind. Then he sees the shape. A man in dark clothing, positioned where 3 branches meet, facing east toward the trail where American supplies move. George adjusts his scope. To clicks right for wind. His breathing slows. The Winchester S trigger breaks at 3.5 pounds glass, smooth from hours of adjustment at Camp Perry before the war. Now he'll find out if a civilian target rifle can kill a man trained to kill him first. George squeezes. He falls tumbling 90 feet through branches before hitting the ground with a sound George doesn't hear but somehow feels. George works the bolt. Japanese snipers work in pairs. George scans the surrounding banyans, searching slowly. Each tree could hide multiple men. The canopy creates shadows that swallow shapes. At 9:43, he finds the second sniper. Different tree, 60 yards north. Lower, maybe 50 feet up. The Japanese soldier is moving down the trunk, retreating. He heard the shot. He knows his position is compromised. The second sniper falls backwards, his rifle clattering through branches ahead of him. Both hit the jungle floor within seconds of each other. George reloads from a stripper clip. His hands are steady. At 11:21, a Japanese bullet strikes the sandbag 6 inches from George's head. Dirt explodes into his face. He rolls left, presses against the bunker wall. The shot came from the southwest. George waits 3 minutes before moving. He inches back, glasses the trees. At 11:38, George finds him. Third tree from the left, 73 feet up. A mistake. By noon, George has killed 5 Japanese snipers. Word spreads through the battalion. Men who mocked his mail-order rifle now ask to watch him work. The Japanese adapt. They stop moving during daylight. George spends the afternoon seeing nothing. Rain turns the jungle invisible. Smart, the man climbed into position during the rain, using the sound to mask movement. Also smart, he chose a tree 290 yards out. Longer range than yesterday. They're learning George's capabilities. At 9:57, Japanese mortar begin hitting around his bunker. They've triangulated his position. Second salvo, 20 yards short. The third salvo will hit the bunker. George grabs his rifle and runs. Behind him, the bunker disappears in explosions and flying debris. George relocates to a fallen tree 120 yards north. The Japanese send more snipers that afternoon. They know George is hunting them. Now they're hunting him back. At 2:23 p.m., George kills his 7th sniper. At 3:41 p.m., his 8th, this one, climbed high 94 feet up. Good concealment, but the height creates a silhouette when the sun angle changes. At 5 p.m., Captain Morris sends a runner. George reports 8 confirmed kills over 2 days. 12 rounds fired, 8 hits, 4 misses. Morris assigns him to continue at dawn. That night, George cleans his Winchester and considers the mathematics. 11 Japanese snipers, originally operating in Point Cruz, 8 dead. And now they know exactly what George looks like and exactly what rifle he carries. January 24th, he sits in his tent with the rifle across his lap until rain starts at 4:15. George uses the time to relocate. Not the bunker. Not the fallen tree. Somewhere unexpected. A cluster of rocks the Marines used as a machine gun nest back in December. At 8:17, George finds sniper number 9. Palm tree, 190 yards out. Lonely, 40 feet up. George aims, begins to squeeze the trigger. George has killed 8 men in 3 days. The remaining 3 won't make elementary mistakes. George lowers his rifle, scans surrounding trees. If the sniper in the palm is bait, the real shooter is positioned to cover him, waiting for muzzle flash. George glasses methodically. It takes 11 minutes. A banyan tree, 80 yards northwest of the palm, 91 feet up. Perfect height, branches and vines conceal him from 3 sides. Clear line of sight to George's previous position, at the fallen tree. If George fires at him, the sound will reveal George's actual position before he can chamber another round. Second, if George does nothing, The sniper will eventually realize George moved and begin searching. He aims at the decoy in the palm tree. George immediately swings toward the banyan, 91 feet up. The real sniper will react. That reaction will create movement. He puts the crosshairs on the dark shape and fires before the sniper can fully turn. 2 shots, 2 kills. But George has revealed his position. He grabs his rifle and runs east. Drops into a drainage ditch, 40 yards away. At 8:34, Japanese machine gun fire rakes the rocks where he'd been positioned 6 seconds earlier. George relocates again 100 yards east, to a shell crater partially filled with rainwater. He settles in with water up to his chest, rests the Winchester on the crater rim. 10 confirmed kills. 1 remaining, the most experienced. He's watched 10 comrades die over 3 days. He knows George's tactics, George's rifle, George's approximate location. And somewhere in those trees, he's watching, waiting, planning. At 9:47, George realizes his mistake. He's on the ground, moving toward George's position. George sees movement at the edge of his peripheral vision, 60 yards south, low to the ground. A shape moving through undergrowth parallel to the tree line, crawling toward George's last known position at the rocks. The Winchester is shouldered, but the angle is wrong. The crater rim blocks his view. The Japanese sniper stops at 9:52. He's reached a position 40 yards from the rocks, studying them, searching for movement. George waits. Patience is the primary skill of sniper work. At 9:58, the Japanese sniper moves again, 35 yards from the rocks. At 10:03, the sniper reaches the rocks, takes up position facing east toward the drainage ditch where George should have relocated. The sniper is now 38 yards from George's actual position, but facing the wrong direction. His back is exposed. This sniper survived 10 days of American operations. He outlived 10 other snipers killed for making mistakes. This man won't make mistakes. The position is too exposed, too vulnerable. No experienced sniper would remain there more than a few seconds. A second Japanese soldier, 70 yards northwest behind a fallen trunk, not moving, just watching. Rifle aimed toward the drainage ditch. 2 men. The 11th sniper brought support. George slowly lowers himself deeper into water. Submerges until only his eyes remain above the surface. Keeps the Winchester pointed skyward to keep water out of the barrel. At 10:13, the Japanese soldier in the rocks stands. Both men begin moving east, parallel to each other. George remains motionless as the 2 soldiers move past his crater. Their backs are exposed. George rises from the water, slowly, silently. Water drips from the barrel, from his uniform, from his face. He aims at the closer soldier. Now 42 yards away, George works the bolt. Swings toward the second soldier. The man is turning, raising his rifle. 11 shots fired over 3 days. 11 Japanese snipers dead. George has cleared Point Cruz of the threat that killed 14 Americans in 72 hours. But as George climbs out and retrieves his spent cartridges, he hears something that makes him freeze. Japanese voices from the tree line.